Hi guys, Neil Harkin over in the UK here. Welcome. The idea of this video really, as the title suggests, is to try and provide you with five simple steps, reasonably simple steps, to try and make sure that you don't make some of the mistakes that I've made and that many of us make in online marketing. I've been in business myself for about a dozen years or so, working for myself, mainly in offline businesses, but I started exploring the online market 2 or 3 years ago. And I guess if you're watching this video, then just like me, you've made some serious mistakes, and you've looked back and thought, why on earth did I do that? So really, what I wanted to do was just try and give you maybe five simple areas to try and kind of both avoid and get involved in maybe in a different way. I guess the first one really is, and it's a common mistake I think that a lot of us make. The first thing is what we do because there's information overload in this industry. What we all tend to do is we run to the next shiny new thing. So we become avid consumers. And really, what you've got to do to start with, once you get to grips with all this stuff, is you've got to stop becoming a consumer and actually become a provider. So that what that means is, when you start in this marketplace, what you tend to do is you get on everybody's lists. You start getting bombarded with new information and new systems and everything else. And what you have a tendency to do, if you're anything like me, is you think, oh, maybe this one will work, maybe that one will work, and you trust these people, and of course none of them do. You tend up, you finish up spending loads of money, and most of it gets wasted. So you've got to be careful of the information overload thing. And as I said, don't let yourself continue to be a consumer, but instead become a provider. I think that's quite an important aspect. Don't run towards the next shiny big thing. The second thing I think you've got to do when you start out in any business, and I did this in online businesses as well, is you've got to really set your goals and objectives around what it is you want to achieve. What is it that I want to do with this business? Where do I want to take it? How much do I want to earn? How long do I want to be in it? What do I want it to provide for me? And what you really need to do is kind of dream big. Think about all the things that you really want out of the business itself, what it's going to provide for you. Share those goals and objectives with your partner or your wife or somebody who has an interest in trying to help you succeed. And then most importantly, you need to write those things down. Write them down on a page. Make a list of all the things that you try and want to achieve with this business. Because it's a strange thing, but when you actually do write things on a page and you write them down as a list, they do have an uncanny habit of actually becoming true over time. And it's you've got to write them down to the extent where it formulates into a plan, and all that kind of thing. You put some specific numbers around it. It becomes measurable, achievable, realistic, and then you set some time boundaries around it as well. And that's really when it starts to take shape and take off. But without those goals and objectives, you're not going to be driven towards doing anything. So that's really important. If you when you're going into any business, is there's a book by a guy called Stephen Covey. I don't know if you've ever read it, but the book's called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits that Stephen talks about is always start with the end in mind. And I guess the rationale for that is to give yourself a picture of where you're going. You've got a mission and a vision of where it is you're going to be taken with this particular business. So very important that you actually do that. I guess the third thing you want to try and do once you've stopped becoming a consumer and you've set down your goals and business objectives about what it is you want to try and achieve with your online business. I guess the third thing you need to try and do is find a business model that actually does work. Now, I know that might sound odd against the backcloth of what I've just said in terms of the first step about stop becoming a consumer. But contrary to popular belief, there are actually some very good models out there at the minute. Whether you're in multi-level marketing or direct marketing or affiliate marketing, there are some good models out there. But I think the important thing that you've got to do is you've got to do your research. You've got to establish who are the people behind this particular business. What have they achieved in the past? What are they promising you? Is it a proven model? Does it work? Are there other people involved in the business who could substantiate what these people have been telling you? And more importantly, the people that you're listening to or that are promoting that particular proposition, do you trust them? Because if you don't trust them, or there are people who've made comments on YouTube or whatever about a particular model or a system, then or about the people themselves, in fact, then obviously you've got you can weigh all this evidence in the balance. But there are models out there. There are people making money online. But what you've got to do is you've got to find that model and try and make sure it's the one that's actually going to work for you. The fourth thing I think would be don't try and go it alone, because business in any event can be a very lonely place. If you're starting a business on your own, it can be a very lonely place to be. Online marketing, in fact, can be even lonelier because very often you just sat in front of a screen on your own, working away. And if you do it anything like the way I did it, what you tend to do is you work on your own to start with. You try and find out for yourself. It's more trial and error than anything else. And at the end of the day, it can be very lonely. So what you need to do really is surround yourself with people who can provide you with support, feedback, ideas, incentives. Ideally, you need to be working kind of within a team environment for reasons of motivation, and all the rest of it. Going it alone isn't a great way of doing it to start with. It can be it can damage your ability to focus, be persistent and dedicated. You do need people who can support you in this process, and that's really important. Again, it's got to be some people that you can trust and that who've got a track record and all those kinds of things. But motivation is really important, both from a personal perspective and from the perspective of taking your business from a standing start to where it is you want to take it to. So when you do establish, when you're doing your research with this business model, which was the point that we talked about in the last in number number three rather, then what you need to be doing is finding out what the support mechanism, what the support infrastructure is like. Do the people who are purporting to push this business out into the marketplace, what levels of support do they provide? Because that's really, really important. Going it alone, as I say, can be a recipe for a very quick exit from this business, even before you get started. And the final thing, number five, I think, is at the end of the day, there's one thing that my father once told me, and he said, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. So, this business is just like any other business or industry or sector or part of industry and commerce, in the sense that there aren't any fast track results. There's no push button software. And believe you me, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've pretty much tried everything that's come out, and I've not found anything. What I have found are certain aspects and business models that do work, but what you've got to do is you've got to be dedicated, you've got to be persistent, determined, and more importantly, you've got to become consistent, and the actions that you take need to be habitual. The things that you do every day, day after day after day, in order to get the results that you want. Because what you'll find over time is that certain activities and tasks that you make are the ones that start to build your business and the process and the structure of that business. And as you start to develop those actions, then the consistency and habitual nature of what you're doing will build the business on its own. Obviously, what you need to know is what are those actions. But you've got to take action. And at the end of the day, the success of your business itself will be governed almost entirely by the level of input that you put into it. Business and life, in fact, I guess, is like a garden. If you've got a derelict garden and it's not, there's nothing planted in it, then all you've got is a rocky garden with no flowers. It looks terrible and everything else. If you spend time on that garden and you plant seeds and you fertilize it and look after it, nurture it, then you're rewarded with a fantastic garden. In that example, business is the same. It's the success of your business is determined entirely by the degree of effort that you put into it. But anyway, I'm going on. I'm conscious that I'm getting close to kind of my 10-minute boundary, and I know we're all busy people, so I don't want to waste your time. But just to kind of recap on the points, the first point is stop being a consumer and start becoming a provider. Get away from that information overload. Stop chasing the next shiny thing. Second point is establish your goals and objectives, write them down, and work them into a plan. The plan doesn't need to be a 54-page tome. It can be a plan on a page, simple bullet points, but make sure they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and there are some time boundaries around them. The third point is do your research, and you can do it online through Google, Bing, Yahoo. Successful business models, you'll find that there are some out there. But what you've got to do before you invest any money in anything like this is you've got to do your research, do your due diligence, find out about the people behind them. Are these people accessible? Can you pick up the phone to them? Can you email them? Can you get some direct feedback? What have they achieved in the past? Not just for themselves, but what have they achieved for other people? And at the end of the day, you've got to trust these people because you're going to be spending time, money, energy, and effort with them, and it's important that that trust does exist. Number 4 is don't go it alone. That's a very, very rocky road. Can be very lonely, and in business, you really do need to try and get into a place where you've got people who are supporting you, looking after you, and helping your business through for reasons of motivation and everything else. So try and where you have identified what you think might be a good business to get into, whether it's MLM, direct marketing, affiliate, whatever it might be. Is there an infrastructure? Are there people who can support you? Are there people who can physically show you what to do? Because you need to be coachable as well in things like this. Very often the best businesses are the simplest ones where it's a 1, 2, 3, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then you get that at the end. But nothing comes for nothing. You've got to put work in. You've got to take action. That's the most important thing. And number 5, at the end of the day, is be determined, be persistent, become consistent, and eventually you'll get to a stage where the actions that you take become habitual. That the things that you do every day are going to lead to your business being more successful than it was before. And it's that habitual nature of the process and the business that you're in that will ultimately give you the success that you're looking for. That's about it from me for now. If you want to know anything about the business or some of the business I'm involved in, there are 2 things you could do. Below this video, there's actually a link, a couple of links actually. I'm on Facebook with a site called Create Your Better Life, and there's lots of links to other things in there as well. But hope you've got some value out of this video. I'm Neil Harkin, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers, all the best.